Here we are with my review of the First Edition Cliffjumper, which Mitch Santona sent me. This was one of the only First Edition figures that I really wanted. Now, of course, people have realised that First Edition figures are, well, they're all better than the RID equivalents, but Cliffjumper and the Voyagers, Optimus and Bulkhead, they were the only ones I really wanted, and I'm really happy with this Cliffjumper. It's such a good vehicle mode, such a nice looking muscle car with the horns on the front, lovely shiny grille. The headlights are actually the same translucent blue plastic as the windshield, and all of the windows are done with translucent plastic. There you can just about see the teeny tiny Autobot symbol on the side. It is very small, and when you watch this you probably think it's bigger than it is, but I'm actually able to see it better on the camera screen than I can in real life. That tells you how small it is. Yes, he could do with some tail lights, and I'm not really sure why he's got two sets of exhaust pipes. But it's such a nice looking car, you just can't fault it. It does roll very well, but for some reason with mine, you'll see it does that, it jiggles. It's hard to actually get it flat on all four wheels. I'm not sure why that is. But yeah, there's the underside. Not a lot of robot stuff. There's his hands. You can have the blasters flip round so that it shows even less robot parts on the underside. I suppose I could have done that. But that's something for robot mode, really. Here's just a little comparison with another muscle car transformer, Cybertron Downshift, who is very nice, and some parts of design sort of remind me of Cliffjumper. I'm not really sure. It might be the way the back end is done, like that. But you can see he's obviously a bit smaller than the conventional deluxe, but I suppose when you consider Cybertron figures, he's now a little bit bigger than the average that we've had the past few years, so he's an alright size. He's not big, but when compared to other cars anyway, I suppose he would be slimmer and shorter, so it's still good. Something which has saddened me quite a bit is this. You'll see that piece there is sort of cracked and it's lying at a different angle than it should be. I have no idea how it happened. It might very well have been when he fell off my shelf one day, but I'm just praying that this doesn't come off, because this section of the roof, the way it transforms, it's all very tight and it snaps in very quickly with a lot of force. So I'm just hoping that that doesn't end up coming off. It's not wobbly, it's still on there, but it's obvious that the plastic underneath is bent, and then the red paint on top has just cracked and it's left this horrible sort of dent in it, which is very sad because this is a figure that I've been looking forward to for a long time and I love it. It really is very, very good. So to have it damaged in any way is very disheartening to me. I suppose you should look out for that sort of thing on yours as well. Now is where things get rather interesting. The transformation on this is excellent. I think this is what the Prime line is going to be known for, is really good, fun transformations. And I shall begin. First thing you want to do is just split the sides of the car like that. Pull them out, and they rotate forward, down like that. You take these little bits of what were parts of the windows and fold them in, and come under here, lift up these black pieces which are his feet, and rotate the sides round, and here you can straighten out the knees So there you have his legs. Comes this sort of middle section. Open up this plate shaped piece. Pull the bonnet of the car up and round, and you can rotate all of the top of the car round like that. So there you've sort of got his lower body. Come up the top here, untab the sides, and you can swing them forward, which will become his arms. You want to move the back bumper, I suppose, up over the rear windshield. Now here is where things could get a bit hairy for me. With this bit of damage here, this is the part of the transformation you've got to be careful with if you don't want to snap off these pointy bits. Now that's what the motion you want to do, is move out to the side and rotate it round. Same time you can collapse that bit of the arm, like so. And there we are, safe. Now you can sort of angle the piece of the top of the car to make his chest, like that, and you can push this sort of belt buckle panel, not really sure what to call it, I suppose it's his abdomen. You can push that in there and that will keep the halves separate to a certain degree. Come around the back, lift up his head, but be sure to grab it at the black sort of base part, because I found if you just go yanking his head, it's gonna come off like that. The hinge that his head is on is very stiff, so that's why you end up pulling his head off if you don't do it properly. Angle the bonnet up, and there are these two pieces at the side of the grille, or the bumper, which you have to push in and round, which then lets you move the piece with the horns up. Now you can tab it in to the back of his neck there, and bring round the headlights here, move them forward, and they go around the front, and you're done. I absolutely adore the transformation on this figure. It is so well done. It sort of fills in all the gaps as it goes along and creates a really sort of bulky, tough looking robot out of what is really a very slender sort of car. You've got virtually no kibble. I mean, you've got this sort of horn grille section on his bum, but you can sort of angle that out of the way. The design of this figure, I think, is just excellent. I love the way the arms look, and just the way he looks so sort of solid and tough. Admittedly, you don't really get a lot going on down here. You've got a nice lot of articulation. The knees don't bend very far. You've got a little bit of movement with the feet because of the way they're ball jointed for the transformation, but this is the end of the figure, which sort of comes closest to a disappointment. It's not disappointing because overall the figure is great. It's just when you look at the RID version, the legs seem a little bit more involved, but of course they're probably not as involved transformation wise. So while he has got these sort of short plain legs, which are actually shorter than his arms, he still looks good on them, I think. Here's a size comparison with the First Edition Bumblebee. You can see he's a bit bigger, a bit taller, a bit wider, but I suppose this figure is more like the sort of standard deluxe which we've had for the past few years, and Cliffjumper is more the sort of size where they're going. He's still a very good figure though when you consider his size. These arms are just so nicely posable and solid. All of these joints are like pins. You can swivel his wrists around, and he's got 5mm handholds, so you can have him hold guns if you want, but he doesn't need to. Not when you can do this. Flip up the wheel sides on each of his arms, rotate his hands underneath, a little back, and he's got built-in guns. This is, I think, the main reason I wanted this figure over the RID version. Just for the show accuracy, really. I mean, yes, you only get to see Cliffjumper in action for one episode, really. But, you know, these guns are perfect to what you see him use in the show. And it just looks so cool. You can get him in some really good poses, just sort of standing there, pointing his guns at things. Until I get a Viacon, there's not really anyone he can point his guns at. But overall, with the sort of articulation you've got, the detailing, you can just make him look so cool. And really, it's a shame, I think, that the main release figure doesn't look as good as this one. It's still a good figure, don't get me wrong, but having handled this one first, I can't really see the need for me to go and buy an RID version when this one is so good. So, to finish, I would say, if you can get your hands on one of these guys, then certainly do it, but it's not going to be cheap. Since I got this guy sent to me from Mitch Santone as part of a trade, I've noticed the prices on the internet just really skyrocket. They must be double, at least double the price which they would have been on shelves in Toys R Us in America. Of course, if you can't get this guy, then the normal retail release would be a perfect substitute, and I'm sure somewhere down the line this guy will get re-released, slight redeco. I know that Hasbro want to try and put out the first edition figures again in a more sort of wide release, but of course that means the figures will look slightly different than original releases. So there's my look at what I think will be one of my favourite Prime figures. Certainly one of the best looking at the moment. It's an excellent all-round figure that everyone needs to get a chance to own, and that's why I think the first edition sort of situation is just to the detriment of everyone, really. What Hasbro were thinking with that whole deal, I've got no idea. So think yourself lucky if you've got any first edition figures. I certainly think myself lucky that I've managed to get 2, but of course there are still ones that I'd like to get, and I think that's the case with most people. So I'll sound off by saying, if you want to get your hands on some first edition stuff, the best thing to do is try to get someone to help you hook you up with it, because I really am very, very grateful to Mitch Santone for sending me this guy. Otherwise I would have had to pay a small fortune to get this figure, which actually, probably, now I've got it, I'd say it would be worth it.